I'm Emily, and these are my favorite books from 2024. We have a pretty big stack with us today. It has a wide array of different genres, so I think there's going to be something for everybody. So if that's something that interests you, sit back and relax, get a drink, get a snack, and let's talk about some books. Before we begin, just a little PSA, some of the books that I talk about are actually books that I featured over on my podcast. If that's something you're interested in, I will link it down below. I also host a Fable book club that goes along with the podcast with my best friend. I will also have that linked below, so if you're ever interested in joining a book club, listening to a new bookish podcast, you found the right person. The first book we're talking about is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This was a book club pick for this year. This follows two main characters, Sam and Sadie Green. Sam and Sadie team up in this book to create a video game and thus launches the entire story of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. We follow the two as they launch their first video game and then eventually they launch their first brand. It turns into something much bigger than either of them ever expected. Going into this, I was not sure if I would like this because I don't play video games, so I felt like I would feel a little bit disconnected from it, but I have to say this book and the characters in it are some of the best characters I have ever read about. The story spans 30 years, so we really get to know the two characters. We learn about a lot of side characters in their lives and how they impact one another. Throughout the story, we kind of talk about identity, disability, failure, success, and all of these important things that come to play in friendships. This is a book that truly feels human in the best way possible. I would recommend reading this if you're in the mood to cry, if you're in the mood to feel something, if you're in the mood to read a human book. It was a phenomenal book and I will never stop recommending this. Another story that does a very long deep dive into two characters is Summer Sisters by Judy Blume. This is my favorite cover of the year by far. I think it's just absolutely stunning. I would frame this and put this on my wall. We follow two friends, Victoria and Caitlin, each summer in Martha's Vineyard, spanning from their childhood all the way up until one of them is getting married in present day. Their friendship is extremely complicated and we learn all about it throughout the story. This is a book that I would recommend to every woman, everyone who's experienced girlhood, womanhood. This is a book that truly will stick with you. It's a toxic relationship, it's a female friendship, it's kind of beautiful and equally heartbreaking at the same time. So we kind of get to see girlhood throughout all the years. We get to see their complexities of their relationship, the different relationships that they partake in. It is just so interesting. This is a book I will definitely be rereading, and I'm not a rereader. This was a 6-star read for me. The next book we have is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Malors. This is the first book that I've read from Coco Malors. She also recently came out with Blue Sisters. If you've heard about that, that has been everywhere, and I'm also reading that for my book club right now. So if you want to read it with me, you can go join down below. This story is an age gap marriage set in New York City, and we follow Cleopatra, who is 24 years old and from England, and Frank, who is, I want to say, somewhere in his 40s and lives in New York City. The two meet in New York City, and thus begins the story, and we follow multiple POVs as they explore the effects of this marriage. Cleo struggles with depression and Frank struggles with drinking, so we get to see the impact that both of these problems have on the other and on the people in their lives. It's beautiful, it's funny, I cried, I laughed, I loved all of the characters. Specifically, I loved Eleanor. So if you've read this and you know what I'm talking about, I think Eleanor is my favorite character that I've read this entire year, and she's not even a main character. She was just incredible, and that alone should convince you to read this. This is also a 6-star. Moving on to something a little bit different, we have a fantasy duology. This is One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. In 2023, I was a huge fantasy reader. I read at least one fantasy every month. In 2024, I definitely took a step away from it. I was just overwhelmed. It felt oversaturated. I needed a break. But I read these two and they reintroduced my love for fantasy and magic and all of that stuff, and I just cannot recommend these enough. So this universe centers around a deck of cards that are magic, and that is what our magic system is based on. Each deck has a different power it holds, and the person who owns the card wields that power. We're also dealing with a very complex and evil royal family. They have a lot of secrets, and throughout both stories, a lot is unveiled. Our main character is incredible. I love her. I love her complexities, and her narration is phenomenal. There's great romance in both books, and it's the perfect amount, especially for somebody like me. I don't love when romance is at the forefront. I just like when it's a part of the story, but it's not the story, if that makes sense. Our main character, Elspeth, kind of gets thrown into the royal family. She gets thrown into all of the secrets and lies and the manipulation that comes with the royal family, and we follow her journey through both of these books. So good. I would recommend this to anyone trying to get into fantasy or anyone who loves fantasy already. These are phenomenal. Switching up the pace a little bit, we have The Things We Cannot Say by Kelly Rimmer. This is a World War II historical fiction. I don't know why that felt like such a mouthful. This story is dual POV, focusing half of the book on Nazi-occupied Poland and the other half on present day in the United States. Our main character is Alina, and we are following her as her little village in Poland is torn apart by World War II. We then flash forward to present day, and we have a set of characters that are none of Alina's family members, so we have no idea how they are connected, but throughout the story we learn who they are and how they are connected to Alina's story. This book, I'm so serious, will make you sob. Like, sob. If you want to cry, this is the book for you. I loved the writing style. I want to pick up all of her books. If you're looking for World War II historical fiction, this is the one. I know that Kristen Hanna is a big name in historical fiction, and for a good reason. Her books are great, but Kelly Rimmer also deserves a lot of hype because I liked this better than both The Nightingale and The Women. I thought it was so good, and I hope more people read it soon. The last book I'm going to talk about today is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This one has a lot of controversial opinions surrounding it. Some people love it. Some people thought it was the most boring book ever. I could not disagree more with those people. I thought this book was phenomenal. We're following the investigation of a girl who goes missing in the same spot that her brother went missing a decade prior. It's set on a summer camp, and it's kind of like, it gives the feeling of like an old 90s summer camp, like kind of a campy movie, not like, no pun intended, but like a camp movie. But the characters are so well fleshed out for a thriller mystery, and it's something that you don't come across often in that kind of genre. So I really appreciated the way that Liz Moore was able to give the characters life and was able to give them these big personalities and these big backstories while also giving us like a really interesting mystery. So if you're looking for like a thriller mystery, but also looking for something that's not just a quick, easy read, but something that's a little bit more powerful and slower and just a little bit of like a slower reading experience, which is something that I've been trying to focus on at least, then this is a great pick. I highly recommend it. So that's it for today's video. This was a quick one. I just wanted to reintroduce myself back to YouTube because I have taken such a long hiatus, but I would love to be back in 2025. I have a lot of stuff to talk about over here. I've been super busy with the podcast, with my TikTok and Instagram. All of that will be linked below, so if you would like to see more, if you'd like to hear more about books, please follow me in those places. I am so much more active, but my New Year's resolution this year is to bring this YouTube channel back. So this is not the last of me. You will see me more consistently. So have a great 2025, and I will see you guys for the next video.